Thank you for being here on behalf of the entire Dexalot team. I am Cengiz Dincoglu. I'm one of the co-founders of Dexalot. I worked in Wall Street for over 20 years, and for most of the time, I built electronic trading systems during my presence in there. And not to show my age, but I was at 60 Wall Street building at JP Morgan in 2001. And I lived through the September 11 attacks, which was only 5 minutes from the Twin Towers. So we built the program trading desk in JP Morgan, where we processed about $2 billion in transactions. And later on, I jumped ship to statistical arbitrage trading desk, where as a quant developer and a trader, I had my own high-frequency trading algorithm. I built an FX system. I helped other quants for their option strategies, future strategies, and so forth. Fast forward to 2018. I never really thought that I fit in the corporate world, and I decided to do something else. I left New York City, moved to Florida, and I started doing small-size applications, focused on my hobbies a little bit here and there. And one of those days, I also got involved with Hyperledger, actually, on those days. And I fell in love with the promise of blockchain for the first time at that point. Later on, my friend for 30 years, Nihat, the other co-founder, he called me and he told me, hey, do you want to do something different in the blockchain space? Just something stupid. And I'm like, okay, let's give it a try. And long story short, that stupid little thing led to something else, and that something else got to something bigger, and here we are 2.5 years later, we have Dexalot. So what is Dexalot? We are the first club DEX in Avalanche. Instead of for me trying to tell you what club is, I can just quickly show you this our front end, where we have the pairs, list of pairs. We have an order book. We have the charts, order entries, history of the trades. In general, what you would see in a central exchange, you would see it in Dexalot. But crucial differentiation, the order book that you see in there and matching happens on-chain. So that's the difference, and we don't take custody of any of the funds. So let me jump into the overall architecture. We have been live on C-chain for over 2 years. Actually, we've been live for 2 years, and we've been live on C-chain for almost a year, and we just moved to our subnet as of February 1st. And as you can see, as you can guess, also, because we are dealing with club dexes, we rely on market makers. What is a market maker? Like, you're all used to AMMs, but for a market maker in a club context, think about you're fishing, and you have to cast a fishing rod every single time, put your price out there, and if there's a bite, you get a fill. If you don't, you need to readjust your price. You need to cancel it, readjust your price, readjust your size, and resend it, recast it. So that's a very transaction-intensive process. So gas fees are important, hence we had to move to our subnet. Now, think about the friction that can come with a subnet. Subnet is an entire blockchain, right? So what happens in a typical new blockchain? You want to trade something, what do? You go to a bridge. You want to transfer a token, and you have to wait. You worry about the bridge. Is it gonna fail, or is it gonna go through? What are the risks, right? All these. So that first friction, we said, how about we take the concept of L2 and kind of apply that to our subnet. So how is that possible in a way? The first thing then, we said, okay, we're going to make them tightly coupled. Both blockchains, the C-chain and the subnet, they have to be tightly coupled. How can we couple them? Then we said, all right, we're going to have a portfolio main, which is the mainnet contract, and we're going to have a portfolio sub, which is the counterpart of the mainnet contract, on the subnet. And they're going to talk to each other, and nothing else is going to talk. Those two only. And then there's going to be some messaging in between. So the messaging right now is provided by layer 0, but it is just generic. We are bridge agnostic. We're going to use warp messaging later. We can implement some other bridge. It really doesn't matter. So what we do, from a user's perspective, think about it. They will deposit in the mainnet contract, and that deposit stays on the mainnet contract. It doesn't go anywhere. It's locked. And after that, a generic message goes to the subnet. It only tells the subnet, the portfolio sub, hey, this guy deposited 100 AVAX, and he can trade up to 100 AVAX. That's all it says. And then the user has to switch to Dexalot subnet from the core wallet or MetaMask wallet to issue transactions into the portfolio and the exchange in the subnet. Now, that's the second friction. Why do I have to switch? Why can't we make it simpler? That's what we thought as well, right? And we connected with the core wallet team back in December, and we asked them, can we do something with this? What if we didn't have to switch at all? Can we sign cross-chain transactions? So basically, core team was very receptive. And just 2 weeks ago, they gave us a version where you wouldn't even know that you are transacting with our subnet. So it's quite seamless. It's really tightly coupled now. And when, as a user, you're done trading in the subnet, all you have to do is to withdraw your assets. And again, one single generic message goes from portfolio sub to portfolio main. And the funds are being unlocked and deposited in your wallet. As simple as that. Now, how is it? We can talk about a little bit on the difference within AMM and market making. Now, AMMs, as you know, they need liquidity providers. On the other hand, we only need market makers. There's impermanent loss in AMMs, and market makers don't have to suffer the impermanent loss. From a user's perspective, when they use Dexalot, what we call it in a way is regret-free trading. What it means, there is no slippage whatsoever, because when you send the limit order, that's the price that you will get. You also heard liquidity book, concentrated liquidities, recently in the AMMs, right? They are great innovations, in my opinion. But think about it. You are providing liquidity for a price range on a liquidity pool from 16 to 17 for AVAX, let's say. And then you lower that price range, 16.5 to 17, lower it to 16.75 to 17, and so on, so on. Where does it get to you? Where does it get at the end? One single price. So that is the club, that one single price that you send. As Gün and Nihat put it actually in one of our interviews, the limit of liquidity pools, or AMMs, is a club, in mathematical terms, in a way. So, yeah. So let's compare level 2, layer 2s to Dexalot. Why would we use Dexalot over L2? Obviously, obviously, L2s solving the same problem of scalability, right? And funds are kept in L1, for sure. So there is no differences in there. But depending on the implementation of an L2, we're not really sure what is going on inside that off-chain application. Can any of us be sure what they're doing in there? They're not decentralized. They are partially secure because they are settling back in the L1, but there is matching that's happening in the L2. There is no visibility like Blockchain Explorer. And MEV. So the MEV is like, it's an interchangeable thing that I'm going to use as MEV or front running, any of those, or looking at the orders in advance. I'm not saying that L2s are doing anything wrong, but even on Wall Street, I was approached by exchanges, and MEV in Wall Street terms is a co-location. It was, at least back then, co-location with the exchanges. So I was asked if I was interested to pay for a co-located server to have the first look at the orders so I can scalp them. So if it is happening in the Wall Street level, it may also happen in the crypto space. So L2s, in that sense, have, they have no visibility. And I don't know. It's your choice to trust them or trust the blockchain itself. So after talking about, like, you can have the best technology out there, the novelty, everything, but at the end of the day, if you don't have enough liquidity, your product is not going to be used. So what do you do? So you have seen the very first page. This is our order book, again, and there are shaded areas, the blue shaded areas, that shows the minimum and maximum limit, dip max and dip min. From the supply side of incentivization of an order book, we came up with DIP, Dexalot Incentive Program. So basically, we're trying to incentivize people to provide liquidity and for them to earn rewards, just like in an LP would provide liquidity to an AMM, right? So if you would to enter an order between 15 something, let's say 16 to 1731, depending on your order size, its proximity to the mid price, as well as it's the time that it stays in the order book, you will earn rewards. So this is the supply side of how we are attracting liquidity from market makers or retail investors, whoever. We also integrated with Hummingbot, so you can be a market maker on Dexalot technically, if you would like to. So this way we can compete easily with AMM's prices and depth. From the demand side, we have two things that we're working on currently, the simple swap and aggregator integration. Simple swap and aggregator integration will be on the C-chain directly. This way, the users who don't want to really deal with depositing, understanding what a limit order is, withdrawing, they can just go to a simple screen, a swap screen, and they can swap. And aggregator integration, I guess there's no need to expand on that. We will attract more volumes into our subnet. And last thing that I would like to talk about before I open up for questions, the multi-chain. Now, multi-chain for many projects means replicating their contracts, their environment, everything in a different chain. For us, it's completely different. Multi-chain for us is about only deploying the portfolio main in a new chain so they can come send their volume to our subnet. So it is a liquidity aggregation, bringing all chains into one, rather than separating volumes and liquidity into different chains. So it's a completely different concept. And our contracts currently allows us to do this. The current version, we have a little bit of course, that everybody has in this space, the inventory issue when you're dealing with multi-chain, but we have some solutions in there as well. That concludes my presentation, and I would like to take some questions now. Sure.
Just a question about your protocol risk. What's the failed state of the locked funds on the main chain if something happened to the layer 2 or the communication issue?
Yeah.
Do they remain locked, or do they?
So the question is, what happens if something in the blockchain, in the subnet, let's say catastrophically, the subnet, all the validators are gone, we cannot recover, right? What happens to the locked state on the main chain? So that's actually the advantage to have them in the main chain. Because we also, let's say that we can't recover any of the blockchain explorer, we can't see logs, nothing. We have something called ABS. Was it ABS? Yeah, asset balance snapshot. So basically, just for that fail-safe, as a fail-safe scenario, just for that, we are every 10 minutes, we are taking the balances of subnet, we are putting in these balances in IPF, and we are putting in the mainnet in a way. So something happens in our subnet, it goes completely, we have a snapshot as of 10 minutes ago, worst case, of all the balances. We can decrease that minute to 2 if you need to, but that is a very small, I don't think that will happen, but you never know. Any other questions?
So yes. You mentioned all the, in the order book where we see the order data are sourced from the blockchain, is that correct? Even though the order book, the order that has not been matched?
So yeah, the question is if you would see all the orders in the order book in the blockchain. Am I correct? Yes, all the orders are in the blockchain, and you can just scan them and scan their addresses technically, so there's no anonymity. You can tell, and we are thinking about actually, for willing market makers, we want to see how much depth, if they are willing to share their addresses. We want to show them, show the users how much depth they are providing at what prices, which will be a very nice feature. I think Solana had something like that, so we are thinking about doing it. Does it answer your question? Yes.
What's the future looking for trading groups? You have a limited number currently. What's your rollout plan?
So we have two, for new projects, we have to vet them first to be able to list them, because we are trying to be very compliant in many ways. But for the major pairs, let's call it, as we go to different blockchains, then we can bring in their natives and the tokens that are very liquid in there into our subnet as well. So we don't want to just list anything just to list them. We want to list things that are already liquid, and we want to bring that liquidity to our subnet. That's our plan in general.
Does the lot of end-of-day process where you need to settle the trades and balance them?
Not at all. It is instantly settled. So when a trade happens, because it's in the blockchain, it's instantly, you know how much fee you paid, how much gas you paid, who you matched with technically, with which trading address. Everything is there. So there's no end-of-day settlement or anything like that. It is not like a layer 2 type of thing. It happens instantly. And it is logged in the blockchain of our Subnet blockchain.
I'm not sure if the multi-chain feature is available now, but if it does, when people withdraw assets from different chains, you might have the liquidity there.
Yeah. So he's asking, I'm sorry, I didn't repeat the question in the previous one. So he's talking about the inventory issue that I just mentioned like 5 minutes ago. When you go multi-chain, let's assume a case where in one chain you deposit 100 AVAX, and the same person wants to withdraw that 100 AVAX to Ethereum. And there's nothing in Ethereum because nobody deposited Ethereum from there. So that's a classic inventory problem that all the projects are facing. And so we have certain ways to handle that, like incentivizing people to withdraw a certain chain, and maybe taking fees if you're insistent on going to the chain of your choice. Actually, I ran out of time. Any other questions, or is it? Yeah. Okay, any other questions? One last question. Okay, thank you very much for coming. Thank you.